Hi there, Renee Aste of Lowell, Massachusetts. As much as I would love to be your prospect researcher for your nonprofit helping you fundraise, I'm going to be talking about a little bit of my history. Two parts. The first part will be about my volunteer experience with foster care review, and the second part will be my court researcher. So this is part one of two. As a warning to people, I am going to be talking about childhood trauma and neglect. So back in 2010, I saw this ad on a bulletin board in the Lowell Public Library. You're at the library, you're reading books to your kids, you're taking kids, the books out and everything. And it says, would you like to be a foster care reviewer to help out in foster care reviews? And I felt like my experience as a parent and as witnessing what happened in the Archdiocese of Boston, um, my parish, St. Michael's, was affected by the sex abuse scandal. There was a perpetrator at St. Michael's in the 1970s. And this perpetrator was a priest who worked directly in with the youth. And he was actually very popular working and well respected working with the youth at St. Michael's when in fact he was perpetrating against young adolescent boys. And he knew how to target them. And I always thought back, like, how come no one could speak up? How come nobody could say anything? You have zero tolerance. I have zero tolerance. We all should have zero tolerance for 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 people, for individuals who harm children in this way, right? Zero tolerance. And I remember sharing this in the interview. Like, I have zero tolerance for this. Like, I've witnessed the horror, the pain of the victims. It's always about the victims, guys. So I spent several years, once a week, volunteering foster care, listening to families. And it's a very wide spectrum of why families end up getting services from Department of Children and Families. It's very wide. And, some of it is because of a perpetrator, usually mom's partner, perpetrating against the kids. And I remember one foster care review, and the the girl was like a younger adolescent. She spoke up. She spoke up to her guidance counselor and said something, which caused the investigation, which led to her and her siblings being removed from a very unsafe situation. I remember after that foster care review, turning to the social worker who was running the meeting, and I was like, "Thank God somebody believed her. Thank God, because when this was happening back in the 1970s or 80s or even now, people would ignore the children, and the children knew that nobody would believe them. But now, at least I know it's just one case, but to just hear one case where they listened to the child and they did the thorough investigation to make a determination. And, the children removed and placed in safe places. And the other half of foster care reviews were more of the emotional neglect issues where, it wasn't like even a physical or a sexual abuse. It was parents who probably might have had their own trauma, children being raised in very toxic, emotionally toxic homes where they weren't really being cared for emotionally. Yeah, there was a roof in their head. Yeah, there was like food in the pantry, but no one really cared about who they were and about them. And the parents were just sort of like off with their toxic behaviors. And, I was kind of like, was always sometimes there giving parenting advice because like my kids have never been to Walt Disney World. We don't have a lot of super luxury stuff when I was raising my four kids, but I was always there for them emotionally. Like simple asking your kid how was their day matters, even if they ignore it. Even if they ignore it, we always try our best in our home to say good morning, how was your day, good night. These simple things that show that your heart cares. And sometimes, especially when I was seeing certain families, sometimes the mom just had her own heaviness and weightness of her own trauma that she was carrying. And I would be like, look, it's like you don't have to be the perfect mom spending all this money on your kids. You just have to be a good enough mom. You just have to be a good enough mom. And I would even tell them, it's like, no, when my kids have their birthdays, they don't get these big birthday parties because like I have 4 kids. That'd be so expensive, right? If I tried to have a big birthday party every time. To shoot. Sometimes, just going, to the supermarket, and they have those little like mini cakes, it depends if you get fresh or frozen, but they go for like around $10. And you just make sure you get, if you can, get their favorite flavor because that matters. And, just make sure there's a cake for them on their birthday. Show them that you care. And showing that level of care of emotion really matters. I remember a foster care review about a little bit of an older adolescent boy. And he was in a foster care home. It must have been like Saturday morning. And the foster dad was like, how do you like your eggs? And the kid was like, no one's ever asked me how I liked my eggs. Imagine, it just broke my heart. Imagine being raised in a home where, again, like, it's not about the big gifts or the vacations or anything like that when it comes to being a parent to show that your heart is there, having a heart and caring. It's simply asking, how was your day? Simply asking, how do you like your eggs? Um, Make sure on their birthday that you're there for them. Then again, it doesn't have to be a big, crazy, like even with the Christmas stuff, you don't need to go all out and spend, hundreds of dollars. But getting a gift, thinking about who they are as a whole person, this child as a whole person, excuse me, really matters. So one of the things that the social workers will ask the parents if we're trying to reunite the kids, the social worker will ask, tell me about your kids. Tell me about your kids. And you could tell by the parent if they were observing the kids. You could tell by the parents about if the parent could say what the likes and the dislikes were of the kid. Like, oh my goodness, my kid's like, she's like, I remember one instance, the child must have only been like 2 or 2.5 or 3. And the mother was like, man, like, children are kind of weird and they're kind of crazy. But she's talking about this imagination play of her child. She was noticing the child was playing. And the mother was engaging in that, like, pretend play in the imagination play. That playing and just like, instead of ignoring the kid, recognizing the kid and seeing what the child was doing. In another case, oh, it broke my heart. Like, it was a bit of an older boy and he loved chess. And the mother was like, I know nothing about chess, but you could see I was passing by, kind of like I saw them like having a visit. The boy was trying to teach the mom chess. And the mom probably didn't understand chess, but she was trying to learn chess for the boy. Anyways, I'm going to do part 2 of being a court researcher. Anyway, guys, thanks. Love you all.